Yes. So, and INEC has been coming out strong, saying that, this time we are prepared, even though it's not a general election, we are on ground. Is there anything to be worried about so far?
No, I don't think so, because, of course, there's the advantage of the fact that it's not all together, just a few constituencies where the elections will be taking place. So, due to that fact, I think there shouldn't be any cause for alarm, because what it means is that INEC will not be under pressure to actually deliver. Logistics challenges will be very minimal, because those states or those constituencies are isolated. So we don't need to panic. It's just for the stakeholders to ensure that all the arrangements are made. Chiefly, INEC should ensure that all the things that they need to put in place are there, so that we'll have a seamless exercise. Of course, when you were mentioning it, what INEC said and all that, there's saying that they are really prepared and all that, I chuckled, because of the fact that INEC will say every election they will say they are ready, but when the day comes, unfortunately, you start seeing one problem or the other. Some of the issues that are dotted and dogged the 2023 general election actually are offshoot of INEC operations failures or inadequacies. Good enough, the judiciary has so far been able to manage the questions very well, and moving forward, let us hope that these by-elections will be seamless.
All right. As Victorson was speaking, our colleague Bode Gbadebo walked into the studio. Bode, thank you for making it. I know how hectic your schedule is today.
Happy New Year, Mr. Lawrence, and Happy New Year, Abuja.
Thank you so much, Bode. Bode Gbadebo is the online editor with the Leadership newspaper. Bode, I want you to continue from where Victorson stopped. We are looking at the by-election. Although it's not a general election, but a lot of interest has been generating a lot of interest from your past experience as a media professional, both as a reporter and as an editor. You think this by-election is going to be anything different in terms of operation, in terms of preparation, in terms of outcome, generally everything?
Well, I think we have a way of doing things in Nigeria, so there won't be anything different, because it's like a norm. And even though we are not satisfied, we are not happy with the state of things regarding our electoral process, because it is actually inherent with electoral impunity, rowdiness, a lot of things, present disregard for established rules and extant laws. So there won't be anything different, because no offender had been previously identified and punished. So there won't be deterrence. So since there won't be deterrence, there won't be anything different. And we should be more concerned about how we got to this place. Why do we have up to this number? It means, I think it's only in Taraba that, by way of a natural occurrence, a member-elect of the House of Representatives died shortly before the inauguration of the 10th National Assembly. So there will be by-election in Zinc, Euro, Federal Constituency of Taraba State. But for others, it's most of them, virtually if not all, were actually asked to be repeated through instrumentality of judicial pronouncement, because we have never, chosen to obey the rules. So how do we even know? If we do this one, people will still go back to court. And if court also annul the election, we still come back and do it, even for the whole 4 years that the tenure will last. So I think INEC, let's start with INEC, for me, has not turned a new leaf. Yes, I know the national chairman is doing his best, telling us their preparedness, the resources mobilized, money involved. But we should also look at time wasted, resources wasted, when these things are not done according to the rules, according to international best practices. We waste life via violence, we waste money, that's resources, we waste precious time. So I believe, since these ones are isolated cases, just 40-something, INEC will be more focused and will be more intentional and determined to deploy appropriate number of staff, whether regular or ad hoc, to go and conduct these elections in line with established rules and extant laws, so that nobody will complain at the end of the day. Even though I know human beings remain human beings.
Is it possible? Nobody will complain.
that I was going there. That human beings will remain human beings. But at least the number of complaints should be reduced to the barest minimum.
But I think we should cut INEC some slacks. We are talking about by-election in 2 senatorial districts, maybe 4 federal constituencies, and a few states. Out of over 460 elections that were held in those things. So I think it's really not bad.
And it's see, when you place too much emphasis or focus on INEC, sometimes we miss the point. Our politicians are desperate. Most of these problems were created by the politicians, the actors, who wanted to undermine the system. We last Saturday, but they were supposed to, Nigerian journalists, women were supposed to hold the election.
Yes.
What led to it being aborted, cancelled? That's the desperation of the average Nigerian politician. I'll leave the details of Nawoj election.
No, let's leave that now. You know they say dogs don't eat dogs. Anyway, Bode, let's look at the Ondo State, the scenario in Ondo State. Started last year with attempt to impeach the then deputy governor before the unfortunate demise of the governor, and now the then deputy governor is a substantial governor now with full executive powers, and it looks as if the governor is consolidating, especially with what happened yesterday with the sack of the executive council and everything. But what's your reading of the situation in Ondo State?
Well, of course, what happened yesterday was expected. There is a new sheriff in town. We have to put in new structures, new processes, everything new to enable him to settle down conveniently for his job. Remember, before he ascended to the throne, if you want me to use that word, before he ascended to the throne, there were, Cold War. In fact, almost leading to physical confrontations. There were protests for and against his ascension, the rest of them. Even commissioners under the late Governor Akeredolu openly came out and rebuked the former deputy governor just to prove loyalty to the late governor. But then, they say humans plan are not God's way, One thing led to the other. The governor died. The man that was rebuked eventually became the governor. So you don't expect him to work naturally. You don't expect him to work with people who openly
undermine him.
Exactly. So he has to ask them to go. Thank you for services we rendered to the state. He has to bring in his own people. And shortly after disbanding the state executive council, I think he appointed, or he nominated rather, a new deputy governor, a bureaucrat, former deputy clerk to the National Assembly. That shows the man rose to pinnacle of his civil service career, you understand, now to be the deputy governor. And I think later in the evening he also appointed 2 more persons, the secretary to the state government and the chief of protocol. That shows he wants to settle down for work. But then that's not the end of the story. The whole thing, the whole politicization of the late Governor Akeredolu's health challenge was about the politics of 2024.
That's right.
The governorship election. Right. Now the calculation has changed. The new man will naturally also want
to recontest.
To contest.
Yes.
he contested previously for deputy governorship slot. Now you want to contest
as governor.
And you know there will be a lot of argument. Oh, he's from this part. Oh, they are minority or not, and the rest of them. But then the man with the power will always want to have his way. So we can only keep our fingers crossed. Let's see how the politics of the primaries will play out. Then the main election, and eventually we will also wait to see who will carry the day.
I hear APC is considering giving him an automatic ticket, and so that will be good for him. I think the party should, if the party does that, that would be good. Let us see how we can consolidate. They will consolidate the state, consolidate on peace, because the flow now, actually, if you read the mood of the state, is all of them lining behind the governor. So I think they can build on that.
Okay, gentlemen, we don't have much time. I want us to look at the National Assembly. The National Assembly is resuming, I think, last day of this month. There seem to be a lot of expectations from that very important body. And one of them is the issue of constitutional review or amendment or whatever, because different names. A lot of expectations on that side, but I want us to look at a few of them. Victorson, let me come to you. In terms of, there are a lot of people who believe that by virtue of the controversies that trailed the last election, there is need for a comprehensive move for electoral reforms.
Again?
Yes.
I don't share that view. Like I alluded a while ago, the average Nigerian politician is too desperate. Okay, where are the lacunas they are talking about? These just a few. When did we the reviews, the laws we used for the electoral act that we used for the 2023 elections were done last year, year before last now, 2022. That's what we're using. So just between then and now, is that when we have so many that plethora of changes we need to make? I think that we have not attuned our minds to the basic flaws that we have, the desperation of our politicians to undercut and manipulate the process. For instance, some of the issues that have come out of the 2023 election were transmission of election results. Are they fundamental? Those are questions we need to ask ourselves.
Some people believe they are.
That they are fundamental. You need to separate between electronic transmission of results and having a general electronic system. Those are some of the things people do not understand. Those dichotomies are there. So if we are to look at it, we have to look at these issues holistically. But for me, I think that more fundamentally, the problem is with our attitudes.
There are others who also believe that INEC, the institution of INEC, needs to be taking a second look in terms of appointments of officials, in terms of the powers of the
Who do they want to appoint the INEC chairman?
These are things that we expect the lawmakers to think of, but I want you to intervene on this. In terms of taking a look at INEC as a body, there are people who say, well, appointments of people into such key sensitive institutions should not be basically political.
What
do we are appointing?
What do you think? How do
institutions can do that rather than individuals? Remember, because individuals there's this tendency always to want to be biased. Remember former President Muhammadu Buhari appointing his party member Loretta Onyoche, nominating her as INEC National Commissioner. But because of public outcry, the National Assembly had to at that time decline that confirmation. So, because maybe he was misled. Even the woman openly lied that she wasn't a politician. And she is a member of the APC. Pictures abound where she had done, the attire, the political branded attires and the rest of them. So, I think of recent too, former INEC chairman, Professor Atairu Jega, was of the opinion that, nomination of INEC chairman and commissioner should be taken away from the powers of the president.
So who
probably
some people are muting the NJC.
body is perceived, nobody will perceive to be impartial and the rest of them. But at least because such bodies are not peopled by an individual.
Those bodies, the leadership of those bodies, who appoint them?
Naturally, you are sent to that position by virtue of being the CGN.
The head of the NJC or the CGN is appointed by who?
Is recommended by the NJC and then approved by the president.
By the president.
But that is natural accession. Except something happened to somebody in front of you and the person is asked to leave, then you become. But then, because of time, let me quickly say, I understand his
where it's coming from.
Point that we are always blaming INEC and the rest of them. Why? I talk about culture of impunity earlier. So that's what he's talking about. Our politicians' desperation to want to win at all costs. But then they are not to be blamed alone. Laws, the cause of this story is whether there should be electoral reforms. Yes, laws that are also inconsistent can also cause some commotion in the polity. For example, look at the current crisis in Plateau State. Members of the State House of Assembly sitting on them, they were sacked by the appeal court, insisting to go back and take their seat. Where were they sacked? On the premise that as of the time of the election, they were not properly nominated by their political party to contest for the election, because in the eye of the law, the party, the PDP in Plateau at that time, had no established structure, recognized structure. The governor was sacked on the same premise, but he got a reprieve at the Supreme Court. So look at it. Somebody is losing while someone is gaining because of a position of advantage. Because the law says legislative matters should terminate at the appellate court. Why for the governorship, the executive position should terminate at the Supreme Court? So why should I suffer for an offense committed with someone who will not get accolade for the same offense? So these are the issues. So we must balance our acts.
So the legislative matter should go to the Supreme Court.
Whatever, whether it should go to Supreme Court or not, there should be, there should be a same scale to judge the same offense. I don't know if I'm making sense. So that's one. Then INEC, two. He didn't want us to blame INEC alone. Yes, correct. INEC, too, should be consistent in the application of the rules. INEC is not using the Electoral Act alone in conduct of the election. There is also a guideline. These guidelines are legitimate, they are legal, because they cite them in the court of law. There is the Constitution. But inconsistency is another thing. For example, I remember the 2023 election, governorship election in Ogun State. One of the points of contention was that, the lead of margin between Governor Abiodun and the PDP candidate, Ladi Adebutu, then was less than the number of council votes and places where voters were disenfranchised. And the man believed that the election ought to have been inconclusive.
Declared inconclusive.
Because there are instances in other places where such happened. Election were declared inconclusive. But in some cases, election were announced. So these inconsistencies also make politicians.
So why did the court not rectify this if INEC was at fault in going ahead to announce the result?
Good. I don't know. These are human beings. Same law, same rules, think differently in interpretation. Remember the same court you were talking about, the appellate court said the Zamfara governorship election was inconclusive. An election should be reconducted in 3 local governments out of 11. When you go to the Supreme Court, they were lambasted.
So this is Bode and Victorson. I want us to look at this. Remember, after the election, the 2023 election, especially the presidential election, there was this clamor that, we need to sort out all the legal hurdles before the candidate is sworn in.
Yes, that's
because a lot of people believe. And after the Supreme Court judgment of the governors, the recent ones, I think the 5 or 6, a lot of people believe that, some of these governors, if these cases had been determined before they were sworn in, maybe it would have been the other way. And this is part of the electoral reforms we are talking about. People will believe that, why don't we make sure that litigations are done away with before swearing in?
But I think we've made some progress because I recall that before now, a governor would do 3 years.
And that was before the time limit.
Yes.
The time limit
so we've made some progress. If we still want to go further, it's still possible. There's still room for that. But we need to be holistic. Then also, like I said, I can't keep talking about the attitude of the Nigerian politician. Of course, some persons have also talked about unbundling of INEC.
Yes.
That as a body.
That's part of the electoral reform.
Yes. But if you want to talk about unbundling of INEC, for instance, most of the things people are saying that maybe you create another agency or another body to handle electoral matters. Electoral offenses. So, what has happened to the police? What has happened to EFCC, Code of Conduct and all that, or ICPC? So we keep creating agencies, and at the end of the day, we are not even getting what we should get. Instead of strengthening existing institutions, I do know that INEC has a legal department and related department to handle some of those issues. But how strong are they in terms of handling these issues?
Most times, this department are stretched and they can't cope with the barrage of litigations.
They already, representing INEC and various court cases.
Even before elections.
Look at the case of the Adamawa suspended Adamawa Resident Electoral Commission. He still remains suspended since last year. His prosecution in the court has been stalled over technicalities. And INEC cannot dissipate energy on that when there is fire on the mountain already. So the mandate of INEC, principally is conduct of election, enlightenment of the electorate, and supervising or regulating the political parties. So prosecuting matters also will be like a distraction. But then, like he said, we may strengthen them to do their job rather than creating more agencies.
Victorson is leaving now. Victorson, thank you so much for your intervention, because I know that you're already late for your next appointment.
Yeah.
All right. But we have a few minutes to wrap this up, and still talking about the reforms. Maybe we should just let that reforms be for a while. I noticed in one of your publications, is it yesterday or today, there was a story about the International Day of Education, and the issue of out-of-school children is still an issue in Nigeria. Body, how do you think we can confront this?
Well, I think government is doing something or some things already. The school feeding, a lot of enlightenment on the need to actually enroll children to school so that they can be reformed and have a better and assured tomorrow, because education is like a social instrument of transformation of one's life. I remember also international partners, donor agencies are doing a lot through Agile, there's adolescent girls program to make sure the girl child is not deprived of education. Then building and equipping the classroom to make learning environment conducive. A lot of things, and money being voted for the education sector to make it more, operational and the rest of them. But then, those things are not enough, because if you go to some other places, you realize that most of these promises remain within the realm of pronouncement. They are not actually physical. They are nowhere to be seen, or no activity to be seen happening to promote education and to reduce the number of out-of-school children. The figure, as it is today, is very, very alarming. And the northern part of the country is worse hit. So I think government at all levels must put all hands on deck to make sure that education receive, the greatest of attention. Education and health, they are very, very crucial. Because whenever you talk about, we lack human capacity in everything, yes. When people are not educated, they will lack capacity to work because they will be short of knowledge. When people are not healthy, they won't be able to work. So we talk about human capacity, good standard of living, and the rest of them. All these things boil down to functional education and a functional healthcare system for the citizenry.
Thank you so much, Bode Gbadebo, online editor with the Leadership newspaper. It's always a pleasure to have you on Insight.
My pleasure too.
All right, that's our package on Insight. Today, the program returns on Monday, bright and early at 10 o'clock. My name is Lawrence Omoette. Enjoy the rest of your day.